Okay, so this is an old, worn out 225 Dauntless.
Right.
We think Buick.
We think, but we've been told. I did check some numbers on it.
And we did some machine work on one of these a while back, but this one came in, and there's nothing special about this. It's just an old, worn out.
It's just an old, worn out motor. We've been doing all these motors lately that we
have a story to them.
Have issues. You know, not sure what we're getting into, but this one is just an old, worn out motor. Nothing special at all.
So it's actually, these are Buick engines, but they were used in Jeeps.
Yeah, and what I kind of researched a little bit and figured out on that is that Jeep, or whoever the ownership of Jeep was at that period in time, bought the rights to these engines from GM.
Okay.
And started building these on their own, I guess. And then at some point in time, they actually sold it back to GM again, and GM continued with this design, I think, clear up to 2009, 2010, somewhere in there, as the Buick 3800.
That they had kind of iterated on a little bit.
Yeah, it had a lot of changes done over the years, but the basic design stayed the same and is one of GM's, I think, all-time greatest engines.
Huh. Okay. So it's just kind of weird hearing Buick, Jeep.
Yeah.
I mean, to the guys who know about them, it's not weird because that's just what they had in them. But to a dumb zillennial like me, it's like, what the heck are you talking about? Buick is in a Jeep engine or in a Jeep vehicle, but
they were
kind of funky.
And let's kind of look at this one, kind of go over some of the differences I see here between this and what a passenger car 225 would have been back in the 60s. The first thing I noticed was when I took the flywheel off to hang it here on the stand, look how big and heavy that thing is. I mean, that is what? Probably pushing 1 3/4 thick.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a solid chunk of cast iron. But they did that because these are an odd fire engine, so they put that big heavy flywheel on there to help smooth out the engine. And also in a Jeep application where you're going to be putzing around slow four-wheeling, why that really helped with the
carry momentum.
Yeah, carry the momentum through the tight spots.
Huh.
Yeah. So that was one of the first things I saw.
Yeah, it looks like it should be on a tractor.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. And then down here in the oil pan, this has a skid plate on it. You wouldn't see that on a passenger car motor.
Working here in the shop, it can be difficult to keep track of what we're working on and who it's for on a given day. Not only that, but we make videos of some of our work, which has its own workflow that needs to be coordinated between me, my dad, and our other employees. We have a lot of moving parts, and it can be a real hassle to make sure everyone is doing what they need to be doing and tracking their time on each of our projects. That's where we've decided to partner with Connect Team. Connect Team is an all-in-one employee management app designed specifically for non-desk and frontline employees. It's easy to set up and use, even for those employees that aren't as tech savvy like the cleaning guy. Connect Team has tons of great features, including a time clock, employee scheduling, task management, checklists, forms, and more. All these features are fully customizable and available in the app, so no matter where your employee is working from, they can stay connected and have all of the information they need at their fingertips. For instance, if your camera guy needs to get some stock footage of corn growing, or if you have employees who have to drive around for the job, they can clock in, clock out, upload before and after pictures, tag their locations for specific jobs, sign off on job reports, and more, all at the touch of a button within the app. Just one example of how Connect Team has improved our workflow is that we have used the Forms feature to create a unified parts to be ordered list each day. This form sends a reminder to my dad and I each day, asking us to enter all of the part numbers and quantities that need to be ordered, as well as when we need them by. This can be done from the Connect Team app, so we don't have to stop what we're working on to find a computer. The form results are sent to the bookkeeper, allowing her to ensure that all of the parts are ordered and available when we need them. With this form, we don't have to worry about losing the parts to be ordered list in the family group chat or missing our suppliers' shipping deadlines. If you've used tools like this in the past, you may be thinking that for all of these features, this must be quite pricey. But Connect Team is very affordable, especially if you're a small business like us, since Connect Team has a small business plan for up to 10 users, which includes the full suite of Connect Team's capabilities for free. If your business is bigger, there's still a 14-day free trial with no credit card needed. So if you're ready to spend less time managing your employees and more time doing the work that helps your business, be sure to click the link in the description and download the app today. Well, I don't want to make any assumptions about the maintenance on this thing. But is the inside gonna be as sludged up as the outside is?
Yeah,
I mean, did they ever change the oil on this, or did they just keep adding oil?
They kept adding oil as it leaked out.
Or is the inside gonna be pristine, and maybe whoever owns this vehicle is like you, and they shake so bad that when they try to fill the oil, it just pours all over?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because this thing is just absolutely covered with grease. This engine is new enough, though, that it has probably always had detergent oil in it.
Okay.
And a full flow oil filter. It's probably 55 plus years old. I don't know if it's ever been apart or not.
Well, they have such a nice metallic green paint when they're new, but you can't see any of it on this.
Yeah, it's all covered. You can see up here on the top where you cleaned that off looking for numbers and found the firing order.
Yeah.
And then we did clean the numbers off back here on back and verified that it is, by the casting number here, 991503. It is a 225. But anyway, I was also looking here where the exhaust manifolds bolt up to this thing. Look how poorly those were fitting. I don't know what they had for manifolds, but from the looks of the way the carbon is on there, if those weren't leaking, they were all but leaking.
The design of the heads, it's not a huge sealing surface on one side anyway.
No, but whatever they used for manifolds and or headers on there and or gasket was not good, no.
Okay.
So I guess let's get started on it. I always like to take a center punch and put one little pip mark on the front corner of the valve covers so we know which side to put the valve covers back on when we're done. And we'll also stamp our invoice number on the front of the heads. And we'll probably have, well, I might be able to get down here on the block, find a spot to put that on there. So you clean that off a little. I'll go figure out what our number is. We want to use J38971.
38971.
Yeah. So if we put that number on the front of both heads, we also know which side to put the heads back on when we reassemble it.
And now, in another 50 years, when this comes back in, I'll be able to look back and identify it.
That's right.
J38971.
Yeah. Okay, it's looking like the valve covers have already been off. Yeah, they've been in here. They took the rocker arms and the push rods out of it. Wonder why. Customers evidently had this part, dug into it that deep. But Josh, make sure you get some video of where that little bracket goes and where this little bracket goes, so we know where to put those back on when we put this back together. In fact,
picture too.
Okay. In fact, a lot of times I will take just a punch or the number set and mark some numbers. So I'm just going to put one punch and one punch mark on that piece, and I'm going to put two on here. That way we know those pieces go right back there. So let's get that sending unit out of there. My gosh. Jeez, who put that in?
Hulk.
The Hulk did it?
Hulk smash.
Oh, he got it in tight enough.
My spark plug socket.
Or he used some kind of incredible
Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk sealer. Yeah, they had that in to stay. What do you see?
Look like spark plugs.
Looks about normal for an old motor. Nothing unusual.
It's a little different power.
Yeah. Has a 195-degree thermostat in it. Looks perfectly fine. You know what I'm going to do with it?
Throw it away.
Throw it away. Never put a used thermostat back in a motor.
It's funny because that's apparently controversial.
Really?
You get a lot of comments saying that you're dumb for doing that.
Well, I figure that could be why the engine is here, is they may have had a bad thermostat in it and cooked it already. So why would I cook it again? Put it away.
Why do we even have this?
Good question. Works good on valve cover bolts.
You don't peel the gasket off yet? Or?
We can just throw that in the oven. It'll bake it off.
Okay.
Okay. Has steel shim gaskets. I don't recall all of these motors having that, but maybe they did. I can see somebody has used their buzz wheel grinder on this at some point in time, cleaned the gaskets off, must have resealed it sometime or other. And we're going to need to pop these little rivets out, take that plate off so we can clean this. So let me set that aside.
We have a lifter popped out. Did they do that when they pulled the push rods out?
Probably. What was it, just laying there? Or?
Yeah, it was just like that.
Huh. Yeah, I'll bet it stayed stuck to the push rod when they pulled it up and they lost it. That doesn't look very good on cam.
No. I don't think it's not flat yet, but it
But it's getting there.
doesn't look too pretty.
Which one is that?
Right there.
This one?
Yeah.
Got that one. Yeah, it's starting to cup out. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's wearing away.
This one, we're gonna have to go down through.
Go down through. It's bad
Yeah.
enough it won't come out the top.
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, well, there it goes. I didn't want to force it through. Yeah, that lifter was,
Actually showing some pitting, not only cupped out, but showing some pitting in there.
yeah. Huh.
They've got quite a bit of varnish buildup on the bottom side here, so I'd say those have been in here for quite some time. I don't think they were recently changed or anything.
Why don't you just stick your finger down here and
And-
push up from the bottom?
Okay. I mean, we're going to replace the cam and lifters anyway, but it's just kind of interesting to look at what these look like at this point.
So we'll save this one to the side because that's the worst one I've seen so far. That one's pretty stuck. So we might just have to.
Let me hook onto it from this side here.
Did you get it? Broke my pick.
What kind of tools you got here? I can't believe the handle came off.
They come from China.
How are they?
Pretty straight. I guess that don't.
I had to.
Oh, that's the. Is that like smog plugs or something?
Oh, and the.
Do you have that plugged off?
Yes. You know, pick the grease off or.
So, was this engine, or did it have smog stuff originally, or?
That was the point they were just starting to use smog pumps. It could very well have had a smog pump on it, and somebody has plugged them off, or it never had them put on, never had it from the factory, but the heads were designed for it. Put one bolt in just with a couple threads so we can break this loose and not have it fall off on our big toe.
Hold on.
They're free.
Well, that's what I didn't know if it was designed from the factory to have provisions for it for maybe another vehicle or something. But in this application, it got plugged, or if it is just somebody plugged it along the way.
Okay, this still has the steel shim head gaskets. That's a pretty good indication to me that these heads never been off, because most of the time the gasket sets people used when they went back together had the composition style gaskets because they were easier to seal. Steel shim gasket seals great on a brand new surface, but they're not real good on a questionable surface. I don't see anything unusual there. Oh, a little moisture in that cylinder.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's just because it has been sitting for a long time.
I think it is, because the piston doesn't look any different than the other two.
Okay.
And it's,
What can you tell me about the carbon on the top of those pistons?
most of the way across, kind of around the edges, maybe a little bit.
Washed clean on the edges?
Yeah, especially on this front piston here.
Yeah, this is an oil burner. Yeah, because the oil coming up past the rings has washed all the carbon off the outside edges there and just left some deposited in the middle. Doesn't have a lot of ridge on top of the cylinder though, does it?
No.
Yeah, it's not a lot of wear.
It's funny, this one almost looks like it had some moisture where it was sitting too.
Yeah, it does. It stained you can see where the rings kind of sat there on the cylinder wall.
So remember the last one of these that we did? It had gnarly wear at the bottom of the piston travel from the oil control ring.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it had like such an aggressive oil control ring or something. It had this really weird wear.
Yeah, I wonder
at
if
the bottom.
it had been rerung sometime and somebody put some really aggressive rings in it trying to clean it up. This cylinder here, this one actually has a little tiny puddle of oil on the edge here
Yeah.
where it is using so much oil. I'm going to guess that somebody plugged off the smog on this because it still has the little extension for the smog tubes going down into the ports. I don't think those would have been in there if those were plugged from the factory. Either way, we'll take those out of there and completely plug them off so they're not blocking the flow of the exhaust. You know, looking at the plugs that are here, I wonder if those are a factory plug or Are they brazed shut? Go speed that real quick. Clean it up a little. I think somebody
Just
cut the
brazed
smog tubes off and brazed the plug shut. Just put them back in.
One way to do it.
Yeah.
Yep. Huh. So not, theoretically not factory.
Why would you find?
It is brazed.
Yeah, that's exactly what somebody did. Is they took the
Tube and
the tube manifold that used to be on there, and they cut those off and just brazed these shut, screwed them back in so they wouldn't have an exhaust leak, which is great, except we'll see here in a minute, they left the lower part of that tube in. We need to account for all these keepers. They're a little bit different style than most engines use, and they're getting to be a little bit hard to come by. So we want to make sure none of those get lost. Okay, see how the guides feel. Not too bad. I feel a little bit of play in there, but they're certainly not wiped out. There is some visible wear on the end of the valve stem there at the end of the travel where it rides in the guide. So most likely we'll be putting all new valves in these. Probably won't try to reuse those. No valve stem seals. That is typical on these. They have no seal of any kind on them from the factory. I think we'll probably put our positive seals on them when we do them.
probably so.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and put this head in the oven to clean.
I was just looking a little closer at this lifter. It is pitted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was on its way out.
Well on its way out. And again, I still think that's just normal wear. I wouldn't necessarily blame that on anything else. Hopefully when we put new cam lifters back in, we can get them to break in properly. Whoop. There went one keeper. Oh, got it. Now then, that valve that's rusty, it's actually stuck in there. Yeah, there's, for whatever reason, been enough moisture in there that it kind of made that one stick in the guide. The end of that tube there, see how it's nice and straight, or fairly straight, just the end of a tube sticking out there. Well, that's where the air pump pumps air in behind the exhaust valve to finish burning whatever hydrocarbons are left in the exhaust. What I've seen is in a case like this where somebody takes the smog manifold and the smog pump off and does not remove these tubes, then you end up with a situation like this cylinder here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. See how that tube is just burned and flared open and really blocking a lot of the exhaust. They probably actually did themselves more harm in the performance of this engine by taking that smog pump off than if they'd have left it on. Had they taken it off and pulled these tubes out right away, everything would have been fine, and we'll remove them at this point. But when you leave that little piece of the tube in there and there's no air pumping through it anymore, it gets super hot and just starts burning away, flares open, blocks the exhaust. And kind of what I found, those have to go back out the top side. And obviously they're not going to come out now with them all burned and flared on the end. So we'll just leave them in, bake the heads, and take those out just before we put these through the blaster. But we'll probably end up having to more or less cut them out of there. There's no way they'll come out in one piece. Okay, let's go ahead and pull the timing cover off before we turn this thing over.
Yep.
So they left us the distributor hold down bracket. Left us some toilet paper. Ew.
Gross.
Look at that. I stuck that on there trying to see what size it was, and I pulled it off, and the chunk of dirt and paint came off in my socket. That's how bad this thing is.
Wow.
What size is that anyway? Because I keep grabbing the wrong size.
Okay, you can call me a dippy-doo, but where the heck? Oh, the plug is on this under
In the
skid
very
plate.
bottom.
That's kind of funny. Put a skid plate on, but you still have your drain
Your
plug
drain
stick
plug
out
stick
lower
out on the
than
bottom.
skid plate.
Look at all the grease in this.
Ugh.
That is unbelievable.
I don't know how there could be any oil in it because it's all on the outside. And
Well,
they must have lived on a dirt road on top of it.
Yeah, well, it's well lubricated. That's all I can say. Okay, there. Forget the big impacts. Big heavy washer and bolt. This should just slide off. Especially with how well lubricated it was.
Kind of thought it moved there.
We may have to pull it.
You've really got me turned around
I know,
because
for the
decades,
last 20 years.
Yeah, this cart has been the other way and you've got it flipped around right now. And I don't know how to feel about it.
There we go. Rubber's pretty bad on that. We'll have to send that in, get it rebuilt. There's a couple different companies we deal with that will redo these.
Oh, there's a yellow jacket. Have you ever had started tearing down an engine and you take a manifold off or something and there's a yellow jacket nest, a live yellow jacket nest?
No, I can't say I've ever run into any that were live yet.
That would suck. That'd be a bad day.
Yeah. I've always been more worried about snakes. So these old motors that come in, been laying out on the sandhill.
Yeah. Well, that flathead could have had all sorts of
Yeah.
excitement in it. Okay, roller back kind of flat, but doesn't seem to be any oil coming out.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna put that back.
No, leave
Leave it.
Well,
completely
yeah,
out.
take it out. Or excuse me, leave it in because we're going to be rolling this back and forth. Sorry. That windage tray makes it a little bit awkward to get to the bolts on this.
Yeah, skid tray.
Yeah, skid tray. You knew what I meant.
I guess it makes it more aerodynamic too.
Dirt and grease.
So is the oil pan bolt into the timing cover?
Yes. There's two bolts in the front here that go up into the timing cover.
Pick you broke?
Yeah, my broken pick.
I guess that's payback for your screwdriver from a few
That's
weeks
right.
ago.
My favorite screwdriver you ruined. I'd had that screwdriver since Hector was a pup.
Since what?
Since Hector was a pup.
What the heck is Hector?
I don't know. I used to ask my dad the same thing when he told me that.
I don't get that reference, whatever that's from.
Okay, grab the pan. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got in there?
Oh, there's more oil than I expected.
How deep is the sludge in the bottom of that? Ew.
Whoa.
Look at that.
It is pretty bad. And there's that lead.
Yeah, that lead color. Just like the flathead. See, this has that nut welded in the bottom of the pan for the bolt screw into, the drain plug. And there's usually a hole drilled on each side. Yeah, right there is a hole in the side of that nut. So it'll finish draining the oil out. But it's so plugged up,
Okay.
it couldn't drain. So, yeah, that's a mess.
Huh.
So, yeah, oil and filtration was just not what it is today.
There.
Antifreeze?
I'm going to say,
Oh, yeah.
you want it rolled back or
No,
just going to dump it at this point?
we'll let the ride catch it there. That's the idea, having this stand the way it is to catch that stuff. So this is a race motor, has a windage tray.
Yeah. That's actually a skid plate.
A secondary skid plate.
Yeah.
once
For
you,
when things really go south.
when things really go wrong. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a mess on the backside too.
Huh. Kind of gross.
Let's see if we can get this secondary skid plate out. Now what do you see?
Nothing.
Yeah, so it does appear just be an old worn out motor. I don't want to force anything here and break it. There it goes. And there we have it. Now this motor, see, it still has a rope type seal in here. And they do make a neoprene replacement seal to go back in there that we'll use when we go back together. And we've got an oil slinger here that any oil that gets out in this area, it slings it out, not only to help oil the timing chain, but keep it away from the front seal. See if I can pick this out of there. There it is. Rope seal. And you'll notice as I'm pulling that out, the gap in that rope is at the top. That helps. Gravity keeps the oil away from that joint in the seal a little bit, helps.
So fill me in on this little.
Well, that's your thrust button. Holds the camshaft back, and it is just some sort of plastic button with a spring. And again, the newer engines came out with a little tiny little Torrington bearing on there. So this will probably get updated to that when we put it back together.
Huh.
And yeah, it has a spring tensioner on that side and just a rubbing block on this side.
Kind of fancy for 19.
Yeah, for back when this was done. It's not in too bad a shape. Not a lot of wear on that. I'll throw them in the bucket. I will bet this has been replaced because I would have thought this would have had the nylon teeth on the gear. I won't say for sure on that, but I'm just guessing that might have been the case. Okay, let's go ahead and pull the bolt out of the center of the cam here. Bolt, washer, and then that gear should come off there, should just slide off. May have to encourage it just a little bit here. There it goes. So the gear comes off, the fuel pump eccentric, and I want to kind of pay attention which way that was on there. Oh, it's marked here. There's an F on there for front. We'll just take it all off together. Okay, you can throw that in the scrap iron. We'll be replacing that.
Show us what you see.
I see a cam that is just about gone. Those lobes back here look pretty rounded off. You can see where the lifter is riding all the way across on the back side. Normally you'll see it just riding on the edge because of the taper on the lobes and the crown on the lifter, which is obviously worn out on this. I think that's our one that was so bad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pitting along the sides of the lobe. You can really see it's rounded off on the top. This damper tensioner here for the timing chain has a little spring on it. And a special little shouldered bolt. So when that goes in tight, it still has clearance so the tensioner can pivot back and forth. Let's not bake that because it'll pack shot in around those two where they're together. Okay, so are we ready to take rods and pistons out?
I think so.
We always try to line it up on here to where the center of the pivot on the engine stand is about in line with the camshaft. And that seems like it always balances the engines pretty close. And then of course get them on the middle so they're not lopsided one way and make it hard to spin them over. Keep your fingers out of this area because if something would slip, it'd be real easy to lose some fingers in there.
Keep your KBC work light out of that area because when you roll your engine over, it snaps right in half.
What do you see on the bearings? I see it's had some dirt run through it. Imagine that.
Yeah.
I think this is original factory bearing, but the numbers that are on the back just don't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean they don't mean something, they just don't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
Now, tell me what you see on that oil ring.
It's shiny all the way.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
No.
Why?
It's worn to the point where it's actually rubbing on the expander instead of the scraper rails.
Right. So it finally, the scraper rails have worn down to the point that it's allowing that expander to ride the cylinder wall. And that once it gets to that point, the expander can't push the rail out to do its job.
I want to say it's not controlling the oil at that point, which is why, you know, you said
Why? Yeah, why we
said it's
have the
using
piston all washed on the top here, no carbon buildup.
I was just trying to remember back to that one we did a while back, and if that is the same, because it's a pretty beefy
Yeah, that's a real beefy looking
oil ring.
expanding rail in there, or expanding.
And I'm curious now. Look down in here. This is exactly like that last one was. So that might have been a design flaw in these from the factory. I don't know if you can see that very well. But there's some gnarly...
Where I'm standing right here, Josh, if you can get the same angle, if you can get the right angle here and look down in that direction, you can see the edge of where that oil ring travels to.
And there's literally more wear. I think you can feel more wear at the bottom of the cylinder
than you can at the
than
top.
you can at the top.
But what that has done, the top is probably worn just the same, but the compression rings coming on up past that smooth that edge off.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So you don't see it like we do at the bottom.
There's not as...
But I'll bet if we went and got the bore gauge, we'd see it.
Yeah. Doesn't this just feel, I mean, stiff and heavy duty compared to... I feel like usually an expander is just all floppy and...
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's definitely, I don't know the right word to use there, where it doesn't have a lot of angles back and forth. Yeah, it's a, because that acts as a spring, a compression spring back in like that, and there's just not much, it has to really, really bend it to make it compress.
I just know on that last one, we kind of blamed it on maybe it having been re-ringed, re-rung. What's the right grammar there? Re-rung, re-ringed?
Re-rung.
Oh my God. I just dropped my socket again.
How many college degrees are represented here?
Well, several
and a half?
bachelors and a master's. Doesn't count though, because none of us are using them right now. But I'm kind of wondering if it's a design flaw with these, that every single one you tear down would be the same.
Look just the same way.
Yeah. It's the same thing on all of them as far as the wear on the oil ring and the bearings.
Well, that's what it mounted to, is whoever designed that ring set for this engine, for some reason, put in an extremely harsh oil ring. I'm sure it had a lot of tension when it was new, and they just flat wore the cylinders out.
Got it?
Yeah. Come out really easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and every one of them, the oil ring is beyond worn out.
The oil ring is beyond worn out, and you can feel the ridge in the bottom of the cylinder. So what did you mean when you said you shake everything you pick up? Because I'm not sure the comments thought you meant what you meant.
Well, one of them even said something about me shaking your baby.
That's screwed up.
No, I mean, I'm not steady anymore. I shake. There's kind of a joke around here that...
Well, I'm not sure how the comments took it, but
I know there was some comments about shaking other things too, but we can't go there.
Launching soon, JMC Online exclusive content. I mean, everything looks consistent here as far as wear.
Yeah, I think we're just dealing with an old worn out motor. kind of refreshing for once that it's just going to be a simple rebuild.
Okay, I need to put a nut on those or something. There it goes. I always like finding
Push.
something interesting, though.
Yeah, but isn't it kind of nice just to be able to know we can,
Fix it.
yeah, fix it without having to jump through all the extra hoops.
Jump through the hoops and still wonder if it's going to be
Still
okay.
wonder if it's going to work when it gets done. Yeah, this this is really a nice old motor. And it's always nice when you get to do one that you're the first guy working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Crank looks pretty nice. There are some scratches. I think we'll just grind that regardless, make it as nice as we can. So I set this for, I think this thing's 3 3/4 inch bore, I hope.
Couldn't tell you. Camera around this side.
Okay. 0, if that needle came on up to 0, that would be 3.3 or 3.750. So down there in the bottom, we're about 0.02 bigger. But look at that. Boy, just as soon as I go past where the oil ring is, it just drops off a ledge. So there is a good 0.02 wear just where the oil ring leaves off.
Which isn't a crazy amount for... It's just weird to see it there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, 0.02 wear isn't like 10,000 wear.
And then, like I said, you get up here to the top, about to where the oil ring comes to in the top of the cylinder. Yeah, right there is where the oil ring comes to. And then I move up just a little bit to where just the compression ring, and it
there's
starts
less
getting
wear.
tight. Yeah, less wear.
That's so
And then
weird.
at the very, very top. So this thing was 0.02 over the nominal size when it was new, because I'm up here at the top where there is no wear.
Yeah.
And then when I go at the very bottom where there could be some wear, but really there's not. But as soon as I come up to where that oil ring is, it's 0.02.
Not gonna do it. You know, it's kind of funny comparing this. When did you say these first came out?
Mid to late 60s.
So 10 to 15 years later than that, the last years of that flathead that we're working
Yeah.
on. And it's a V8, 255 cubic inch.
Yeah.
And it has 3 mains.
Yes.
And you have this with 30 cubic inch less and 2 cylinders less, but it's a 4 main.
Yeah.
Just kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, and the change in technology, having gone to the flathead L-head design to an overhead valve design.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the old timers that had been working on them old flatheads, and all of a sudden this newfangled overhead valve thing came out with push rods and rocker arms?
Yep.
How complicated they'd have thought that was?
Is it coming or
You got a bolt in there?
Yeah.
Hold it up just a little
I
bit.
don't want to hold it when you're...
Well, I'm not going to hit your fingers. I would never do anything to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
No comment.
Remember our rubber duck floaty?
Maybe you shouldn't tell people about that.
All I remember is it did not survive more than 5 minutes in the pool because you thought you needed to try and ride it.
I wanted to ride the rubber ducky.
This is weird. Look at the... I don't know, it just looks kind of weird.
Is that the back side?
Both sides look...
Both sides look like that. This didn't seem to have excessive in-play, did it?
No.
Didn't think it did. But it sure looks worn.
What is going on here?
Well, that's the way that one's made. Here's your thrust.
Oh, okay.
You're looking at the wrong one.
I'm like, what the heck?
Huh. There, we got her. So that main cap has, I'm assuming, a piece of asbestos down each side to seal it up.
The bestest.
Pull that out of there. And then a rope seal. Hook into that.
Your favorite.
Yep. And I'm sure that has plenty of asbestos in it too. All right. Get that half the rear seal out. Just kind of normal wear. But that does have, look at the surface on that bearing. Has that one, that almost looks like it maybe had been hot. Surely not.
This line right here, that's the bottom of the travel for the oil ring. But usually we don't notice a super distinct wear mark there.
You can see where the, where it's got the carbon scraped off, or whatever, any varnish buildup, but not an edge.
Yeah. And to the point, this is actually, I mean, it's probably from sitting, but I can see the line of the bottom of the oil control ring, the line of the top, and I can see a squiggly line of the scraper.
Well, that may be from sitting.
That's what I was thinking.
Where it stained it, because I thought I could see that on the top on one of them. Oh yeah, I can absolutely see that.
Check the end gap.
Yeah, go ahead and put the rings, push them down in square, and see how much end gap they're showing.
Quite a bit.
Not as much as I thought there might be. So that's telling me the compression ring has not worn a lot, or we would have a lot of end gap there.
Well, what are you defining as a lot? That looks
Well, I
pretty-
wouldn't have been surprised if we had 1/8 of an inch.
Oh, yeah, it's not near that. You're still in the realm of 40 thousandths plus.
Are we?
Yeah. Which, what'd you say that is? 33750 or 3750?
Yeah, so new it would be probably 10 to 12 clearance, brand new.
So it is worn out.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt it's worn out, but it's not destroyed.
Yeah.
No more wear than we have there. I'm guessing the first oversize on pistons will be 20. It'll easily clean at 20 over.
Yeah.
Crankshaft, we're not seeing unusual wear on it. I'm not going to mess around trying to see if it would just polish, we'll just go ahead and grind it
Yeah.
so we know it's right.
I think you could feel some
Yeah, there's some
pretty
scratches and things
substantial
on there.
scratches, so I don't think there would be any value in trying to polish it.
But, you know, if somebody was doing this in their backyard, just trying to get by, not spend a lot of money, you could very easily just re-ring this motor back standard size. And though those cylinders aren't what they should be, you could get a reasonable amount of miles out of it again. It didn't seem like the ring grooves were wore wide or anything on the pistons. The ring still fit them pretty good. Put a new camshaft and lifters in it. But no, we're going to do it upright, bore it, make it new again.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring the welder around. I need to take those pins out of the bottom of this manifold. Okay, so I've put a little washer over that pin and a nut. I'm going to try to weld down through that. May not be able to hold that all in place, but we'll try. Let's give that a shot. We'll try the next one here. Now, if things went right, I should be able to twist that, and that pin will come right up out of there. And it did not, it just twisted off. That one didn't stick. See what this one does. No, twisted it off. Need to wait for that one to cool just a little bit. Now, none of those came out the way I wanted, but at least I've got them off. Got the head of the pin off. So I can lift that cover off, and we can clean underneath there without destroying the cover and process taking it off. When that goes back on, I may just spot weld that back on. Usually works pretty well, so we can salvage that plate. So into the oven we go. Okay, so we need to get these old pistons pressed off the rods. If we're gonna bore the cylinders and put new pistons in, and we also want to recondition these rods. Okay, there we have all of the rods off the pistons. And now I'll press the bolts out. Can usually do two at once here. They don't go too hard. not wanting to cooperate and go two at a time. There they went. That's the way it's supposed to work. So we'll throw all those rods, bolts, nuts in the can there. They can go in the oven and bake with the rest of the parts. So I'd kind of overlooked this, but customer had also pulled the oil pump apart, the oil filter adapter here, had it in a little baggie here when he brought it in. No bolts for it, but I wanted to kind of look and see how bad off the bottom of it is. Yeah, it's pretty rough. We may have to do something with this. I don't know if we can resurface that or just what we're going to do, but the oil pump gears have obviously worn into that quite a bit. Looks like there's been some dirt went through it. It's pretty chewed up. So we'll clean that up, see what that looks like also. Of course, the one that I get you to film doesn't come out. There it goes. Pretty rusty on the backside. Come out. There it's out.
That thing is going to look a lot different when it's clean.
Yeah, that's going to look really different when it's clean.
I can't believe that did that.
I can't either. Usually we have to heat those to take them out. Let's see if we can get that lucky on the next one. What's in there?
That's a little bit of sludge.
Yeah, it is. Come on. Nope. Let me go put the little torch on it. This isn't really the right torch to use for this, but I only have to go out to the other shop to get the big one. That stuff bubbling.
And you're breathing. You know, you get two shops so that you have more room for all your things. But instead, you just buy two of everything.
Yeah. and then you can't find it.
Because they're all both in the...
Well, you can't find it in that shop, so you go get the one out of the other shop, and then they both end up in the same shop. See if that's enough to do it.
You're going to twist it.
Am I... Is it coming, or am I just twisting?
You're twisting, I think.
Yeah,
It's just twisting out. Now you're going to have to weld it.
Okay, well, we can do that too. I didn't get a very good weld.
No, but you turned the plug cherry red, so maybe...
Did I? So maybe it's stuck and do what it's supposed to do. There it goes. And we got her. All right. I think that's the extent of it.
That's every
There's,
plug we can see.
one other plug on the side there, the drain plug. Looks like it's a little brass plug somebody's put in there.
Yep.
If we bake this block, that'll unscrew real easy. Let's see, we've got galley plugs in the front. We'll grab one of them long drill bits that we run down through there and knock them out. That's nasty.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of gross.
Hajoo!
Ooh.
That plug's pretty hot yet. I'm not going to pick that up. It is. Look at that.
Sizzle. Let's just kind of do a recap here. I mean, obviously the outside is dirty as hell, so that's just a cleaning thing.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to, hopefully by the time you bake it, most of that'll just kind of
Yeah.
flake away.
By the time this is baked, that stuff will pretty much all fall off of it and then blast from there.
Inside of the oil pan was a little bit sludged up, but nothing super out of the ordinary.
Nothing I wouldn't expect on an old engine like this.
Because if this really did seem to be a factory, seemed like nobody had been deeper than the valve covers, honestly.
No.
So,
Well, intake manifold had been on and off.
okay.
Yeah.
But as far as internals, nothing had really been touched. So this could have 50,000 miles on it, or it could have 300,000.
150, yeah.
200,000.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the wear in the cylinders did not seem
No,
crazy.
if I had to guess, I would say this was probably a little over 100,000 mile motor, kind of judging by what motors used to last.
Right. So, camshaft, you know, we had some lifters that are obviously just starting to fatigue, and I mean, that's on its way out. That
Yeah.
was not going to last.
And again, that's not an issue we're seeing with flat tappet cams at this point in time. This is just normal wear.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going with this conversation is I don't think there was anything here that could be attributed to lack of maintenance or burnouts.
No, I don't
like
think
some of our customers.
I don't think this was a burnout motor.
So everything we're seeing here is just kind of normal wear for this era of an engine with
Yeah.
however many miles it has on it. The piston ring thing is kind of weird. You don't really see most of the time a ridge at the bottom of the cylinder from the oil control ring.
No.
But we do have that, and we saw that on the last Dauntless that we did.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly the
making
same
us
thing.
think that this, pretty aggressive expander, something about that ring makes it wear into the cylinder.
It's so aggressive it eats the cylinder wall.
Camshaft, a little bit of wear. I was looking at the bearings a little bit, and none of them have any, none of the rod bearings look like any bent rod or anything like that. The extent is, some of this where it's kind of just, I'd say you can attribute that mostly just to fatigue of the material,
Well, and if this is a Jeep motor, it probably has seen a lot of real low RPM lugging.
Yeah.
So
But
maybe that's what's done it.
There's no abnormal wear. Maybe we have a little bit of contamination,
Yeah.
because you
There's
have
some
kind of
dirt
those
in there.
streaks or whatever. I'm not sure what was going on with the thrust bearing, but it's all,
Yeah.
it just has a weird look to it also.
Yeah, I don't quite understand why that looks the way it looks and where these notches are that allow oil out in there. it's almost like there's material piled back up in those.
Well, that's why I can't tell if it's material piled back up
Or
or,
is it
if those
just-
were cast that way or whatever. However they make bearings,
Yeah.
I don't know how they form these.
They're poured into a mold, I think.
Because a lot of times you see, I think that's more of a machine feature.
Yeah, that has some really strange look to it that I can't honestly say I know. It almost looks like it was kind of melted and bubbled up, but I don't think it's been.
Well, nothing else in the
That
engine
hot?
looks hot.
No.
That's where I.
But you know, it has rolled little pieces of that bearing material over the edge here.
Yeah.
It comes off. I can scrape it off with my fingernail.
But overall, I think the only thing, aside from just rebuilding a stock engine and doing our normal machine work that we normally do, is maybe looking into that piston ring and see if there. I don't remember what you found on the last one as far as the replacement ring, if it was lower tension or if it was the exact
We'll
same.
have to look into that. I think, and I can't remember the saying, but one of the piston ring manufacturers, one of the major manufacturers, used to have a saying, something about their rings were aggressively controlled the oil, but they were easy on the cylinder wall. And I wonder if that's part of what this is. As time has gone by, they've figured out better ways to manufacture the rings so they are easier on the cylinder wall.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's probably a really fine balance
Yeah.
there of enough tension or whatever it
Yeah.
is to do its job, but not
Not eat
completely
the cylinder
eat
wall
the
like
cylinder wall away.
Because this literally ate the cylinder wall.
So, but that's, I think, the only thing is moving forward that we can really look at and change going together. Other than that, it's just a stock rebuild.
Yeah, we're gonna
So-
put it back as close to what it was when it was brand new as we possibly can. Other than maybe a little upgrade on the rings. Like we talked about that the in-play button there on the
right.
front of the cam. The new ones now have a little Torrington bearing in them instead of just a plastic button.
But there's really nothing challenging here for once.
Neoprene front and rear seals instead of the rope seal.
Different head gaskets.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay, let's keep working on it. Get this thing done.
Say we'll get it cleaned up and move forward.
Yeah.
So, like and subscribe.
See you next time.
We want to give one last quick thank you to Connect Team for sponsoring today's video. If you're ready to spend less time managing your employees and more time doing the work that helps your business, be sure to click the link in the description and download the app today.